And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Personal PAC President and CEO, Terry Cosgrove.
Thank you very much. Hello, pro-choice Illinois. This is a sold-out crowd, 1,465 people here. And I suspect I'm not the only one that's a little anxious about the election. Each of you has our deepest appreciation for all you do for reproductive rights. As I thought about being here today, I knew it would be impossible to ignore the tremendous burden and hope of the history that exists inside and outside this room. 96 years ago, women won the right to vote. Both of my grandmothers were born without the right to vote. 49 years ago, women won the right to birth control. My mother was born without the right to birth control. 43 years ago, women won the right to legal abortion, and my sister was born without the right to an abortion. I deliberately use the word won these rights as opposed to given these rights because so many, on behalf of my grandmothers, some brave and committed women, with the support of a few men, sacrificed family, friends, and fortune in order to answer the call of justice that burned in their hearts and souls. These women were jailed, beaten, force-fed, declared insane, and many of them died so that my grandmothers could get the right to vote. On my mother's behalf, some very brave and committed women suffered in order to get women the right to use birth control. On my sister's behalf, some very brave and committed women and a few men have sacrificed family, friends, and fortune in order to answer the call of justice for legal abortion. We know thousands of women died before abortion became legal in the United States in 1973. In fact, Cook County Hospital had an entire ward with 17 beds called the septic abortion ward that was always filled with women suffering and dying from illegal abortions prior to 1973. Make no mistake, this is the era the anti-abortion movement wants to go back to for the 33% of American women that will have an abortion in their lifetime. Allow me to do the math for you. 57 million American women alive today either will have or have had an abortion. Yet, in the first few weeks of 2016, over 2,000 anti-abortion bills were introduced in state legislatures, including Illinois, to make abortion more difficult, more expensive, more dangerous, and unattainable. What does all of this mean for your children and grandchildren? Today, a 92-year-old African-American woman who was born in rural Alabama with the help of a midwife does not have an official record of her birth. She's voted in every election for the past 60 years and is now denied a right to vote this year because she can't produce a birth certificate, which she's never had. Today, a young woman working for minimum wage is told that her employer objects to birth control on religious grounds, so her birth control prescription won't be covered by her health insurance. Her choice is paying for birth control or feeding her children. Yet, none of these deeply religious employers refuse to pay for Viagra. You know those right-wingers, they love that little night before pill and just can't stand that pink morning after pill. Today, as we sit here, I like that one too. Today, as we sit here, anti-choice militants will try to stop thousands of women entering medical facilities for reproductive health care. These women will be harassed, intimidated, screamed at, and blocked from exercising their basic constitutional right. Imaginably, doctors like George Tiller are gunned down in cold blood, and our Dr. Willie Parker refuses to be intimidated even though there are constant threats on his life. And Dr. Parker said right last year at this podium, and I quote him, "If these women are brave enough to find me, then I'm brave enough to be there for them." And tonight, in the city of Chicago, many women will arrive from all over the Midwest at the Greyhound bus station just a few short blocks from here. Because, as Crane Chicago Business reported in June, because of the enormous restrictions and too few providers in other states, Chicago is their only hope for a legal abortion. This is today in 2016 in the United States. Many of these women are so desperate and poor for an abortion, they will have no place to sleep tonight. They will sleep on the streets, or they will sleep at the doorstep of the medical provider where their morning appointment is tomorrow. Yes, elections have consequences, life and death consequences for far too many women and the medical providers who are there for them every single day. Our success or failure on November 8th is no longer for the women of Illinois alone. It's for the women of Indiana, Missouri, Wisconsin, Kentucky, Tennessee, and everywhere else in the Midwest. The tragedy of our great state of Illinois not being a safe place for these women tomorrow, next week, or next year is simply unimaginable. Now, I'm not asking you to sacrifice family or friends to help us elect more pro-choice leaders on November 8th. What I am asking for, like so many before us, is to answer the call of justice that I know is burning in the hearts and souls of every single one of you in this room, by donating some of your fortune so that we can defeat as many right-wing candidates as possible 26 days from now. Now, some of you are here for the first time or a guest of someone else. Some of you have already given, and some of you have already given quite a lot. If everyone here would make a contribution, or their first contribution today, it would go a very long way to ensuring our success. At your place is a small envelope and pens for you to make your contribution. When you're done doing that, please place the small envelope in the large red envelope in the middle of the room. A volunteer will pick it up right after the luncheon. As you're filling out your envelopes, I want you to think long and hard about what your support means to so many nameless and faceless women, like my grandmothers, my mother, and my sister were to the women and some men who came before us. Now, I have a 2-year-old grandniece, and you have children and grandchildren on whose behalf we are waging this fight. I use the word fortune on a sliding scale. If you were thinking of doing $100, please consider $250. If you were thinking of $250, please consider $500. $500, consider $5,000. And if you were, that's not a laugh line. Then you're really going to love this one. If you were thinking of doing $10,000, think of what $25,000 or $50,000 would do to elect and make sure Illinois is the most pro-choice state in the country. We are very close to defeating right-wing state rep Dwight Kay from downstate Illinois, who actually stood on the House floor this past June and said that women who use birth control are promiscuous. The pro-choice woman running against her needs every bit of our help in order to win this election. While we've accomplished a great deal in Illinois by keeping horrible restrictions at bay, like 72-hour waiting periods, misinformed consent, where doctors are required to read anti-choice propaganda to every single woman seeking an abortion, and not allowing trap laws to shut down providers, we have so much more to do. Our forced parental notice of abortion law needs to be repealed immediately. So no other young woman is forced to stand in a courtroom in front of a judge, humiliated and begging to have an abortion, oftentimes in tears, having to tell complete strangers how she got pregnant. Outrageously explaining a 15-year-old why she's not ready to be a parent. It's nothing short of cruel. We must repeal the state Medicaid ban on low-income women's abortions in place purely, okay, I'll take that clap too. Now this one is in place purely for political reasons to feed the craven appetite of the anti-choice movement to cause as much pain and suffering to as many women as possible, all under the self-label of pro-life. There is nothing pro-life about murdering doctors and hating women. The dictionary calls it misogyny, and so do I. On June 5th, when Hillary Clinton secured the presidential nomination by winning the California primary, I was at the Chicago Victory Party that night with hundreds of other supporters. I stood there among all the cheering, the hugging, the tears, as much for the incredible resilience, courage, strength, grit, and raw determination of Hillary Clinton, but thinking back on Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Alice Paul, Sojourner Truth, Fannie Lou Hamer, and all the other women, including one of the greatest heroes of our lifetime, Gloria Steinem, who have given their lives to making sure that we can be here today. Thank you, Gloria. And make a mistake, without these brave women, there would be no Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. There would be no Title IX. There would be no Title X. There would be no equal pay laws. There would be no laws against rape, sexual harassment, or domestic violence. And there would be no abortion rights in our lifetime. So today we have this incredible responsibility on our shoulders to hand this generation and the next generation a world of choice and dignity so they can look back on us someday and say that we did all we could in this moment for countless nameless and faceless women when justice called upon us to act. We cannot do any of this without your largest gift today. I want to conclude with my definition of choice, and here it goes. Not every pregnancy need be planned, but every child deserves to be cared for and loved. That is my definition of pro-choice, and one that is truly pro-life. Thank you very much.